Do you want to see what an event arc of time looks like?
Yeah. Quick question.
Yeah.
Did you ever see any alien civilizations that disturbed you?
Well, they're all to a certain degree fascinating, and in being so fascinating and so foreign, they are disturbing, right? I didn't see anything that I was afraid of, but there were a lot of things that were clearly unusual and difficult to process and understand, what they were and where they came from. That's for damn sure. But you understood also, you understand things like, they weren't taught in the unit, but I teach them to students, which is you have to understand that nothing out there is more powerful than you, right? Nothing out there is more powerful than you. And so if nothing out there is more powerful than you, then you don't ever have to be afraid of what you might run into. You need to understand that nothing can overpower you, essentially, unless you let it. It's a decision that you make. It's a choice you make to either, be compromised in that way or not. And that's a difficult thing for a lot of people to comprehend, but it is a true statement, as true as I can make it. And to see civilizations, there may be, I know I in the original manuscript that went to St. Martin's, I know I described some very, very, on occasion, some really dark, really foreboding, malevolent kinds of places. It certainly is not all just curious and loving and, open and waiting for human intervention. I can assure you that. I also can tell you that when those kinds of things were stumbled upon, they usually, if they developed that kind of emotion in viewers, they were usually not ever done again, because it wasn't worth kicking that can down the road. And there were enough things that viewers were being asked to do that could have an effect on them emotionally, that was not one of those things that needed to be done. So does that make sense in the process?
Yeah.
They weren't interested in really, if they found something or reports came back, viewer had a bad session. Sometimes even if the viewer had a bad session, it didn't correlate with other things. It goes back to, as I shared with you earlier, that every viewer can respond to things in a slightly different way. We never know what the internal emotional filters are of viewers, and male viewers might respond one way, female viewers another way. Female viewers who are very religious or sensitive in some way, or have had some horrible experience that has scarred them in some way, detecting and decoding the waveform expressions of that thing in the blind, and then suddenly, a sense of it. I'll give you an example. In the last CRV class we taught, which was just 2 weeks ago, one of the last targets was in a particular place, and in that particular place, there was a male Hispanic life form that was there, had a beard, big long goatee, and he was working. He was doing what he had to do there. That's what he was doing. It wasn't some drug lab or something. Don't worry about that. But one of this viewer who had done it once and then came back again, started crying as she was describing, what her experience was there, that this male form, she perceived it as remote viewing, this male form came to her when I said, well, what did it look like? And she said, it was nondescript. It was just, I could sense this entity coming at me, and I sensed that it was male, and it just came and, it went on its way. Now, if you look at this guy that's in the video and you look at her ex-husband, who's a very famous guy, it's like twin brothers. So either the dimension, the texture of this guy, the look of it, even though the mind is not describing it as in that way, because she was seeing it as this shadow entity coming her way. She went through a horrible divorce with this guy and other things. And so what happened in that example is that I guess the resonance, which could have been simply appearance or background, right? Both being Hispanic, or the phraseology that he used, or his tone of voice. Those things were enough to cause what is called, it's called an an emotional impact in her. And so there's actually a method, there's a way in the structure that you declare the emotional impact and objectify what it was. And if it's significant enough, you put your pen down, and you write a time. That's called a symbolic gesture to terminate signal line contact. So what you're trying to say, your conscious mind, is stop showing me that. Don't roll back and repeat. I'm not interested. And then when you're ready, you feel clear enough, pick your pen up, write resume in the time, and get back into the session. But that is called an emotional impact. And you have no idea perhaps why it's there until when you see the feedback. And then it's like, oh, oh, that's what she was doing. Oh, I got it now. I understand. So every viewer can perceive, other people were happy to describe this guy in a hoodie, with a hard hat on. But another person, it impacts in a way, and you never know. And there's no guarantee. You can't ever sanitize every target you might give people. So you have to always be understanding that sometimes what's in the target, viewers just shut down. There's some sort of a switch that goes down, like a blind or a filter that goes down that says, don't look at this, don't perceive this. If you want to be good as a remote viewer, you have to learn to let that go. You have to listen to what I'm saying. Nothing out there is more powerful than you. Nothing out there is going to hurt you.
But how do you know that?
Because I know that. I know it based on my experience of being there. I know that the greatest weapon that kind of stuff has is confusion and fear. It's not, physical domination over you. You're a remote viewer. You're detecting, decoding, and objectifying waveforms. I'm not saying that if you got sucked up or abducted by that life form that you could overpower it. That'd be a different situation, right?
Right.
But in terms of being a remote viewer, what you're doing is detecting and decoding waveform. You're not in
present
craft out there, 150 million light years away. That's not what you're doing. Remember, those waveform expressions of those things travel by every possible path. And it means that when omnipresence means omnipresence. So you're just right here now detecting and decoding and objectifying. Now you could call it, coincidence or imagination. If you chose to do that, it would be, if you understand where we come from and what we talked about today, that would just be mean you're part of the 2% that deal in absolutism of nothing. And have that belief and are going to stick to that belief.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. Additionally, if you have any feedback, please put something in the comments below. And lastly, if you want to watch the full episode of this clip, you can find it above. Thanks again for watching.